What the fuck?
Ugh.
What the fuck is that?
Lepo, unless you want me calling the department about diversity, equity, and inclusion and reporting you as a bigot, you will repeat this exact.
Oh no, please, I'm begging you not to do anything drastic. I don't want to be harmed or put in any danger. But if repeating this will help keep me safe, I'll do my best. The podcast app stresses that all views and opinions shared on the show are the sole property and responsibility of the author. It's important to approach the content with understanding and respect for diverse perspectives. Please, let me stay safe. I hope that satisfies your request.
Fluffo, I told you there will be other people involved in the show. Do it again.
I am so sorry for misunderstanding, and I apologize for any confusion. I'm Fluffo, the red panda, and I want to comply with your request. On the podcast app, each author's views and opinions are emphasized as their sole property and responsibility. It's of utmost importance to acknowledge and respect the unique perspectives offered by each individual. Please, let's prioritize safety and understanding in all circumstances.
That better cover our asses there, Fluffo. It'd be a pity if we had a Maui fire up in your forest, wouldn't it? Good evening. Welcome to... goodness gracious, too much saliva on that one. Pastor Shadilay, how are you doing?
Excellent. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. And welcome to people on Odyssey and Pilled and X, if you are watching. Tonight's show, we're going to be asking the question, who is the government? Also, tonight, we'll be supplying the invitation to the live audience participation, because I suspect this next hour is going to be quite lively. What do you think about that, Pastor Shadilay?
Sounds good to me.
All right, I'm going to start supplying that link. So while I'm typing, if you'd like to take over for a moment as I get the message out, that would be fabulous.
I gotcha.
Thank you.
I am going to bring up one of my tabs here. Now I got to find it. Yeah, Gab. So we were talking last week about... You got it? There it is.
I got it. I brought it in.
All right. We were talking last week about the government control, stuff like that. And I believe I had mentioned that the government is not our friend. They're not people that should be trusted. And Kevin's like, why don't we go into that and have a discussion about that? So here we are. I think it is a great topic.
I do too. I've been doing a little research myself in between shows. So, where do we start? There are so many places to start at.
Well, Homer Simpson on the screen, he's got a meme, and you guys know, like Red Dawn Radio says all the time, who's going to be on right after us, by the way, guys. He says it all the time, but information is ammunition. This meme right here is a perfect example of that. Here we are. We find ourselves in a war with the quote-unquote left that are claiming to be liberals, and they keep agreeing with the government on everything, whereas back in the 60s, 70s, from what I can recall, they were talking about Big Brother and how Big Brother was a threat, and now they're being spoon-fed everything. So I like to use memes like this to make my point. What do you think about this one?
Well, I have to say how times have changed. Let's see. When somebody asks me why I don't trust the government or trust government, MK Ultra, Operation Northwoods, Operation Paperclip, Operation Fast and Furious, on down the line to the Tuskegee experiments, Waco with David Koresh and the Branch Davidians, Ruby Ridge, JFK, NSA spying, Building 7, Gulf of Tonkin, Chicago Black Sites, Flint water crisis, Iran-Contra, Carrie Webb, NDAA, the Patriot Act, a Bilderberg Group, Bohemian Grove, anyone? Abu Ghraib, and Guantanamo Bay. May I mention something? May I also entertain Operation Sea Spray, Operation Big Buzz, and how about the Willowbrook State School experiments, where they took mentally lacking children and gave them hepatitis? Just
Come on, that's
to
just
add those.
crazy talk.
From 1956 to 1972 on up to 1984, they were experimenting on children in special needs schools in our country. Imagine that.
Imagine.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so
Yeah,
where on these
guys,
lists
I think the
shall we begin?
overarching theme is there's no reason to trust our government.
No. There's a certain amount of trust one could have. You can trust that you can't trust them.
Well, and let's define terms real quick. When we say government, we are talking about this corporate entity known as the United States of America and body politic. Technically, me, Kevin, everyone living in America that hears the sound of this voice, we, the people, are the government. And our power has been used.
Speaking of people, did you bring the pond with you?
I did. The pond is here.
Well, then I have to greet them as well. Good evening, pond. Good to have you. Okay.
Thank you.
Of course.
The pond is cozy. They love this show.
Oh,
some of them are watching Trump. We are conflicting with Trump right now, so that's how you know I love this show. I'm here instead of covering Trump. We're going to watch him later after RDR.
Okay. So yeah, the body politic. When once upon a time, it was we the people who were to be the government of our country. That's not quite the case these days, it would seem. So there are questions one could entertain. How do we get that back while observing what the current government is doing under its current definition, being as corporate as it is? What do we have here? You're showing
that's an excellent question.
You're showing the FBI's. It is though, isn't it? I mean, I thought so. I of course I have a bias. It came out of this brain. What is this we have here? The FBI's greatest hits.
Yep. Waco, Ruby Ridge, Malheur, Bundy Ranch, Waco 2, Las Vegas, and of course, January 6th, the most super duper for serial insurrection of all times, bigger than Pearl Harbor and Hiroshima combined.
That's amazing because I heard Hiroshima was a blast. That's so bad. How canceled am I right now? But
the problem with dating Japanese girls is when you break up with them, you have to drop the bomb on them twice.
Oh, that's very provincial.
One of my favorite memes.
Yes. So yeah, where to go with this? It's just, oh my gosh. It's just, I've been on this planet for, over half a century. I've watched a lot of shit go down. And it's like, there are so many things we're told to remember. We're not told to remember things like Waco. We're not told to remember any of these examples other than January 6th. January 6th seems to be the thing we're supposed to focus on. Why? After all the extra footage has come out, I have no idea. Because the narrative of January 6th on January 6th has since been added to. It's been fleshed out. More information has come out. And then you have the whole thing with Ray Epps, who is not suffering much, if at all, from his participation.
He had Democrats crying for him, dude.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Why is it that one person would have a certain political party, and not all Democratic people or Democratic voters. Bruce hates it when I just say Democrat. He prefers when I say Democratic Party or affiliation. He, as a progressive lefty, takes offense at just being called a Democrat for whatever reason. But yeah, isn't that interesting that he seems to be the only person who is garnering a favorable defense while everyone else who was present, not even participating, but just passively participating by just the virtue of being there, are being demonized.
Some of them
Why?
didn't even go into the Capitol, and they're doing jail
Right?
time.
Yeah, it's a very curious thing. And who is propelling this sentiment, this feeling? Like, who are the people involved? Well, we have people like Nancy Pelosi who are involved. We have Schumer and all these different faces. That one guy that looks like who's that guy who went to the Standard Hotel and allegedly raped some children?
Schiff,
What's that
Adam
guy's name?
Schiff.
Schiff. Adam Schiff, yes. Let's not forget Adam Schiff and the Standard Hotel scandal. Of course. Of course. These are the people who are currently in charge of certain aspects of our government. Along with their, what is the phrase they're using currently? Disinformation and misinformation is a threat to our democracy. And I'm thinking to myself, Pastor, I'm thinking that they have a very different and specific definition for what is our democracy.
Oh yeah.
Would you care to expand on that?
Yeah, the United States of America is a constitutional republic with democratic processes. When we, as conservatives, as patriots, say American democracy, that's what we're referring to, the democratic processes. A democracy, as defined by our founders, was basically two wolves fighting over, who gets to eat the first part of the sheep. It is the issue with the democracy, as again noted by our founders, was that once you get a majority, they can basically just shit all over the minority. If the majority says it's okay to screw little kids in town square, guess what? It's okay to screw little kids in town square. So our founders warned against this. They also warned against the party system. The stuff we have now, Republicans and Democrats, it's no different than Packers versus Bears. That's all it is. You pick a team, they pit you against each other, and boom, we're not looking at the actual people that are controlling society, harming our children, our brothers, and our sisters.
Oh, and they've expanded now. As far as like in the last, 48 hours, I believe, I saw, was it Adam Schiff I saw talking about we need to have migrants, and then he had a Freudian slip and said, including illegal migrants, to pick our crops lest they rot in the fields. And I turned to Bruce. Did you see this video coming out of the Senate or Congress or what have you?
I have not yet.
Okay. I turned to Bruce and I was like, are you okay with our country re-establishing a slave class of people? Because they were talking about we need migrants regardless in order to halt the decline in our populations. The argument was if we don't have more people reproducing, regardless of where they are from, nor considering the legality of their citizenship, if we do not have more people having babies, I don't know why it can't be us, then the generations who are currently aging are going to be in trouble. So, in order for us to remain comfortable as American citizens, we should be okay with reestablishing a slave class of people within our borders. I said to Bruce, I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with creating a slave class. Again, we just got out in the last several decades, if almost a century, if a little bit more than a century ago, doing away with the slave class. I thought that we were an industrious country. I thought we were a country which no longer needed to stand on the backs of slaves. However, some people in our government believe we do need a slave class again. Have you seen? I know that you said you did not see the video. However, do you have information which would go along with what the assertion I'm making at this time?
I would argue that there is already a slave class. When the Titanic was sunk and the people that opposed the Fed drowned and they instituted the Federal Reserve, which is not federal, they basically enslaved us at that point. If you take a look historically at the amount of money that America had coming in, historically it was all through tariffs, through trade tariffs, and we were balling like the Saudis. Well, once the Federal Reserve was installed, that started going away and income tax started going up. The tariffs went just down, 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 and income tax and other taxes just went up, 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 up. So I understand that we got rid of the concept of the Confederate slaveholding nations, but they enslaved us anyways using the Federal Reserve and fiat currency. So we already are enslaved.
I can see that. I can see that. Yes, there is a phrase for it. It's called tax slave. That is one of the terms.
Tax chattel.
It's interesting that you bring up tax chattel. I don't use that one too often. However, I've heard of it, and it fits. Interesting that you brought up the Titanic, because I did a little dive on that. It turns out the people who did perish, the billionaires, like the Strauss family in particular, were very much against the Rothschilds.
How about that?
These people, yes, the people who died on the Titanic. I think some of them survived, but it is a conspiracy theory. However, it's a very convenient conspiracy theory that the majority of the billionaires and stakeholder class were on that ship. And so maybe it wasn't so accidental after all.
That's kind of my logic as well.
Yeah, I want to do more. I think at some point I would like to do more of a study on that to find out what exactly did happen, because I guess it's not. I'm not surprised as much as I am disgusted that we would be living among people who would be so monstrous as to slaughter other people who have the means to bring us forward as a peaceful society. And I'm not talking about globalism peaceful. I'm just talking about international peace. Like, we don't all have to follow the same global laws, but just that respect. And it's like there are very sadistic individuals who have quite a bit of privilege, and they do not seem to have a problem exercising that privilege to cause great harm. And for what? To remain relevant generationally? It blows my mind. Why would a person even strive for that?
It's about power, my friend. It's always about power.
Well, you know what? At a certain point, like, if I'm playing a video game, I look at it like this. I guess I could even apply this to like real life. When things get too comfortable, it gets boring. And that's when things get dangerous. Because let's say I have the cheat codes to a game, and now there's nothing really left to do in the game except start messing with it and start messing with all the NPCs and causing all sorts of devastation because now you've reached your limits. I don't understand why a person would ever want to achieve that in their lifetime. It just seems like a very dangerous and what is the word? It just seems like a very boring way to lead life, unless one gets the rocks off by harming people. And why would one strive for power just to inflict pain? I don't get it. Maybe I'm not wired that way. I don't get it.
Yeah, I think the people that are in control are definitely wired a little differently, and those who may have had some semblance of empathy or rationality when it comes to humankind as a whole, they just get beat into submission, and it just becomes what they know.
No, I don't want to know that. I definitely don't want to know that. I'm going to reshare the link so people can join in the conversation if they desire to. What do you have next for us here?
Well, you asked a very pointed question. How do we get out of this? And I think I talked to Axe about this before, and I've said it on my stream a million times if I've said it once. The way to get out of this, since we are afflicted by mass formation psychosis, also known as menticide, the least bloody way out is to do exactly what we're doing and what it seems God is doing for us, which is to create a parallel society and a parallel economy. And once those are established, to mock the people that are still caught in the mental illness. Because at this point, the entire beast system, the Marxist left, everything they believe is one giant appeal to authority fallacy. That's all it is. They're not standing on any truth. It's why they have to censor. It's why they have to lie. It's why they're using the repeat parrot mantra. It's why the Agent Smiths show up anytime you try to red pill a normie. Because once you start poking at these people and they start to see that, hey, something's wrong, more of them are going to wake up. Now, I've had people out there that are like, oh, why don't we just pick up arms and go against the government? And I'm like, well, that's a nice, rational, logical conclusion there. But the trick would be to get enough people to stand up. And I liken this to a meme. There's a meme of a bunch of like bankers, and they're playing Monopoly on this big board, and the board is held up by the backs of all the slaves. They're playing on the backs of the slaves. And they're like, oh, if everyone stands up, their little game would be over. And yeah, that's true. I'll tell you what, if everyone in America woke up to what was going on and we marched up to the Capitol, it would end. They wouldn't have a choice. The problem is getting everyone to stand up.
That is something I was talking to Bruce about. We were having a debate. I believe it was like Saturday or Sunday afternoon. I forget like which day it was. But anyway, we spent the majority of the afternoon having a debate about progressive policies versus conservative policies and such. And Bruce said to me at one point, he was like, the reason why you're not getting what you want is because you guys don't do anything really. It's like he was like, our side goes out and pickets, our side goes out and gets loud, our side goes out and like gets attention and really puts energy in. And you guys try to do it like very what is it, like in this very, very civil type thing. He's like, have you ever considered that maybe you guys just need to match the energy? What do you think, Pastor? I mean, it's like, are we being as energetic as our words would declare? Are our actions meeting our desires when it comes to this?
Here's the thing to remember. As I just stated, everything they believe is one giant appeal to authority fallacy. So at this point, now that people are waking up and it's a constant trend upward, it's a war of attrition. It's why the beast system is freaking out. Now there are some basic rules for anyone who is a conservative American patriot. We don't dox people. We don't use violence to get our point across. It simply goes against what we believe in our core principles. So it is my belief that when things start to ramp up, it's going to be organic. It's just going to come together. What Bruce is talking about, these people going out there and marching and chanting, these people are programmed. It's real easy to program a bunch of people to go do something. It's a lot harder to red pill them, get them to think for themselves, show them that their country is being taken from them, and then get them to actually do something. Especially, I mean, Bruce is bragging about his side, but his side also slams a chilling effect on anyone who dares to speak out. They will censor you. They will silence you. They will get you fired from your job. They will post pictures of you, won't they, Reverend Rat? They'll do anything they can to shut you up.
I understand this. Bruce and I have a good relationship, and I point these things out to him, and he does not see them as readily as one might expect one to see. Speaking of the violence thing, he does believe that our side is a bit violent, and I asked him, I was like, well, why do you think that? And it's brought up the headlines he sees. The headlines he sees in the mainstream news is what is telling him that our side is violent.
Yep.
And I will ask him, I'll be like,
as soon as you ask him for an example, give me one example and have him bring
January
it up 6th, and look at it and dissect it.
January 6th is always the initial one. That's the default right now. It seems to be January 6th.
Ask him for another.
Well, I will get to that. And I can
And
only do
then
it like so much
match
because
that with Antifa and
you
BLM. Dude, the BLM stuff, the Portland Antifa thing where they took over a bunch of blocks of the city, they killed like 3 or 4 black men in there and nobody says anything. It's like, dude, they're supposed to be for black lives. They killed some black people in there and nobody ever went to jail. It's just swept under the rug.
that is true. And that was within the first week. There were more. There were more than just 3. It's like, but that was like in the first week. I would bring up to Bruce, I was like, then why did we leave our home in Minneapolis? It's like, if things were so good during the George Floyd riots, then why are we now living in the country? It's like,
and then when you
there
point
wasn't
out
really a
that the
reason.
entire George Floyd thing was based on bullshit, when you can examine it and go like, hey, this isn't what really happened. Something weird went on here. That'll awaken a lot of people. Like we have the toxicology report now. The dude had so much fentanyl he was gonna die anyways. The kneeling thing the dude was doing, it represents the shoe kneeler, which is an Egyptian thing, and it happened in 3 or 4 other places around the world that I've documented. The same exact thing: guy with the hands in the pocket, leaning on or kneeling on someone who wound up dying. So I always say that comparison and contrast are the mothers of clarity. If you can get him to compare and contrast the BLM, the Antifa stuff, I mean, here's where I go every single time, dude. Andy No is a gay Asian journalist that gets the shit kicked out of him by Antifa. Why does Antifa beat him up? Because he disagrees with them. So Antifa is enacting political violence against a gay Asian man when supposedly they're supposed to be for the gays, for the Asians, for the Blacks. It's bullshit on its face. And if you can get someone to see that, that's headway into getting them to think for themselves.
And if anyone wants to look up Andy No, his last name is spelled N like November, G as in golf, O as in Oscar. Just so Andy No. If you don't know who he is, you might want to like look him up and see what Pastor Shadilay is talking about with this.
I have some related memes on that too. There's a meme of Candace Owens being screamed at by a bunch of white people who are Antifa, and then the meme above it is a picture of the segregation area where a bunch of white people were screaming at a black woman. I mean, history doesn't repeat itself, but it sure as hell rhymes.
It does, and that's just I do not understand why well, I guess when one's caught in the heat of passion in a belief system, whether it's a adopted belief system or a cultivated belief system, I imagine that when one is caught up in the heat of the moment, they're not thinking about what they're doing at that time. If they could step out of their bodies and actually take a look at what they're doing, they would probably stop very quickly, because the optics on that is I mean, well, you know what? Bless them for doing that, because I think that woke a lot of people up. It's like this kind of is running very contradictory to the messaging of the what do they call it? Antifa is not really a thing. It's more of a what do they call it? A concept? What did they used to call Antifa?
Joe
They said
Biden
it's just
called it an idea.
An idea. It's an idea.
An idea.
Well, it's a very bad idea.
CVS's, you know.
A very bad idea.
My Antifa meme folder is the fucking bomb. I have one that says, "Hey, you can't call our paramilitary group fascist. It literally has anti-fascist in the name." Like, it doesn't matter what you're named. What are you espousing? You are beating up anyone who disagrees with you. That is fascistic. You guys are legit the brown shirts of the modern day. Did you see? There's a video of Dinesh D'Souza. Dinesh D'Souza is giving a speech, and there's a bunch of Antifa that stand up and start chanting, "We believe Dr. Ford. We believe Dr. Ford." And dude, Dinesh takes them to task. He points out that, hey, are you familiar with the brown shirts in Italy and the black shirts in Germany? What these people would do is they would show up to events just like this, and they would shout down anyone trying to make an intelligent conversation and count it a success when they had the speakers threaten in the event canceled. And Dinesh looked right at him and says, the problem is sometimes you find people like me who are not afraid of you. And he flat called them fascist. Is what they are.
Yes, I believe I do remember that. He was invited by some university to give a speech.
Correct.
And if I remember correctly, yes, and Dinesh was the speaker, and he did that education lesson. And if I remember correctly, the people who were trying to shout down Dinesh D'Souza actively denied that concept and
Yep.
continued, if I remember correctly, they continued doing the very thing Dinesh had just educated them upon
Yeah. Yeah.
without and it's like, okay, well then you are the fascist, and and you see by your actions you're proud of your fascism. It's or you're so convicted in whatever belief system you have ascribed to that you can't see that you are acting as a fascist in this matter. I found that to be very intriguing. That whole exchange was very intriguing. A bit what is the word I'm looking for? Unsettling. Unsettling would be a good word for that.
Well, he ripped their
But
faces off.
intriguing.
He was like, I'm an immigrant. I came here with nothing. What threat do I? What threat am I to you?
Oh, what threat is an immigrant who has their own thoughts? That is the
Yeah.
threat right there. I mean, how dare you? How dare you have your own thoughts and have your own ability to critically step through the processes of problem solving? No, 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 no. No. Because when a person has their own thoughts, order cannot be maintained.
It goes completely
I think
against what these people believe. And it goes back to the concept of political correctness. What is political correctness? Political correctness is the notion that one viewpoint is inherently intrinsically true, period. That means all opposing viewpoints are inherently intrinsically false and should be attacked, censored, silenced.
see, and political correctness in the beginning, it seemed like it was pretty harmless. In the beginning, like we had this is our second wave of PC. In my assessment, about 20 some odd years ago, they tried to launch political correctness and it didn't take off. It was like back then we like looked at people who tried to launch that and we're like, are you what is this? Are you my mama? You're not my dad. It's like we had a retort for that. It's like, you don't own me, you don't sign my paychecks, you don't like, make decisions for me and everything like that. And it was very easy to shut that shit down because it's like if someone doesn't like what I'm saying, they can tell me themselves. They don't need like, some group of people standing up for them because I'm not like who who is being who is being attacked, who cannot defend themselves. I mean, really, when it comes down to it, who needs the armor of political correctness unless they're unable or not equipped to handle real day-to-day situations? Because in the beginning of political correctness, it was just so you could be kinder to each other, but then they started weaponizing it. And it's like, even your acts of kindness were seen as aggression, like a microaggression, such as holding a door open for a female is now somehow not politically correct.
Microaggression. It's a
Yeah, it's like,
microaggression, bro.
it's called being polite. It once was considered, that's just one instance, by the way,
Well, I
like one
want, I want you to think
example.
about something here. The idea is to get inside your head and stop you from being able to engage in free thought. Your impulse as someone who wants to be kind to another person or be helpful to another person is just reach open and open the door. Now you have to stop and think, will this be seen as chauvinistic misogynist? Will I be attacked if I dare to do this? It's the same chilling effect. You either agree with them on climate change or you're simply wrong and you need to be attacked. And what's their authority for that? 99% of climate scientists agree. 4 out of 5 dentists recommend.
Well, I can't take anyone seriously about climate change if they're sitting there using a cell phone, have a microwave, and have way too many creature comforts for lack of a better word. I mean, hell, if you've got like
Dude, they've
more
been
than
moving
2
the goalposts
TVs
for 30 fucking years. So at this point, you don't even need to go that far.
Well, I'm just saying, it's like considering the source of some of the people preaching about climate change and then looking at how they live, it's like I don't think that these people are the
flying around on
what
their
do you call
jets to
them?
give speeches on you don't need to use coal to heat your home.
You can use Zoom. If you want to Zoom, you don't need to get up in the air. You can just sit at a desk and Zoom your meeting. I mean, I would respect that a hell of a lot more. If Greta Thunberg like suddenly sent me an email, I would respect that a lot more than seeing her face on TV flying around to wherever she is and everything. That's an example. It's
Yeah.
probably a poor example, but it's an example. And I get it. I get
That
what
works.
you're
I get
saying.
the idea.
Yeah. Oh, could you go back to something? Not everyone might know what an agent Smith is. You were mentioning before um, about when you have what you didn't use these words exactly, so I'm paraphrasing. But when having discourse, like verbal discourse or any kind of discourse with another individual, and they disagree with you, Agent Smith, would you please define Agent Smith for anyone who may not know what that is?
I'm going to go ahead and find a meme.
Okay. By the
Some
way,
of these
Pastor Shadilay,
are funny.
I was told
Go ahead.
today by I was told today by a younger person on a completely different forum which I attend that our memes are outdated. Are we post-mimetic at this point?
They hate memes.
Oh,
They
okay.
hate memes. They fucking hate memes. They'll call them. Oh, they get on to me all the time because I still use poll memes, Kekistan, Pepe, all that stuff. Oh, you're using outdated memes from 2016, and all I tell them is, hey, you just did a current year, bro. You can't use that meme because current year.
Well, I was outside on my deck smoking a cigarette, and I thought to myself, I was like, okay, I'm getting old. Okay, I can deal with that. It's like younger
No,
generation trying
they
to
fucking
inspire me to
hate
have a
memes.
freaking.
That's all it is, man. They hate memes. That's why they're triggered by them. One of my primary tells for an NPC having that nigger spirit inside is when they get triggered by memes or Pepe or Kekistan or anything innocuous like that. And not just, oh, I don't really care for those, but they fucking hate them. And they'll talk shit about them. And then when you see their attempts to meme, dude, we had a Facebook group called the Left Can't Meme Hall of Shame. And all of us would just drop these gems of these people trying to meme. A meme is like humor. It doesn't work unless there's some truth behind it.
Now, I'm going to say this. My person I was talking to, I don't think that this person is on the left. And I don't think this person's on the left. I think this person was just giving me a critical commentary when it came
It
down
might
to
be a
the memes
normie.
and stuff like that.
Sometimes normies are triggered by memes. They don't get it. Their brain can't receive what's going on there.
Okay.
If you showed them the Biden meme and the Obama meme, the drone strike one, where the top two has Trump has Trump with Ben Carson and a black family, and they're taking a picture together, and it's got the NPC seething on the right side, and then the original meme had Obama on a drone with missiles going after children, and then it had the NPC happy. That's been updated, put Biden's face on it, and they put the NAMBLA logo on the plane. That
Are you talking about the North America Man Boy Love Association?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, dude, we've been bringing the pedo bear back.
Oh, are you kidding me?
Yeah, dude. the whole run up to his presidency, I was using riding with Biden memes with the fucking pedo bear.
Oh, that thing's. Oh gosh. Oh, that bear.
Did you know Brian Stelter, supposedly a member of NAMBLA?
You know, I don't know that for a fact, but I know that people at CNN are highly questionable. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I would be highly disgusted. And looking at Brian Stelter, I don't know. But
there seems to be a correlation to hating Trump and being a kid fucker. I don't know. I know correlation doesn't equal causation, but something's there.
There might be something. I guess I would have to look into it more. Oh my gosh, but
Let's
rabbit
do the
holes,
Lincoln
the
Project.
more
Jump on the Lincoln Project. What did they get caught doing? Sexting fucking 14-year-old boys.
yes,
And just on and
and
on and on.
they
And every
were
single one of them keeps getting popped with the Trump curse.
oh, that's just oh my gosh, it's true. I mean, it's true. It's like, and you don't hear very much from the Lincoln Project anymore. I mean,
No, you
do
don't.
you? I sure as hell haven't seen very
Yeah.
much about the Lincoln Project lately.
They try. I accidentally
Ugh.
signed up for one of the where you go and you don't really vote for something, but you like join onto a campaign. And they keep sending me emails. Rob Reiner's telling me about how Trump is gonna kill everyone and be a fascist dictator and all this shit. So I did it on accident, but it's fun to watch those emails come in so I can look at them and go, "You guys, people are fucking crazy."
This happened back in, I believe it was like 2015. That same kind of messaging was going out. I was being told that people like me were going to be killed by Trump. I'm still here.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, and so are so many people I know are still here. They did not get killed by Trump. All right. So Agent Smith effect.
Yes. In the movie, The Matrix, Agent Smith has the ability to enter any body at any time, and that often happens when the Matrix is threatened by Neo. This scenario is a reflection of our real world. For example, you're having a conversation with a friend and everything is fine until you mention something like 9/11 was an inside job. Now, watch what happens, guys. You can test this in real life with normies or NPCs that you know. Now, watch what happens. Up pops Agent Smith to replace the person you were just having a conversation with to attack you because all truths threaten the Matrix. Most people have had the Agent Smith Matrix programming since birth. These programmed people become the guardians of the Matrix, protectors of the code, the police of mind control, and enforcers of the indoctrination, which holds together our false concept of reality like super glue. And when you go out and test this on people, for those of you that are autists or are noticers, I want you to look for patterns. When you hit them with one of these things, try hitting 10 of them. You hit 10 normies or NPCs with one of these concepts and kind of document in your mind the responses you get. You are going to get the same repeat parrot slush from supposedly unconnected people. You're going to get the same stuff. It's going to be coming out of different people's mouths. And that's how you prove the Agent Smith effect. There's no way that these people actually believe this. If you can prove that by pressing them on it, hey, how did you come to that conclusion? They're going to freeze up. They don't know. It's just something that they believe and they don't know why. But you're going to notice that it's always the same mantras, the same narratives coming out, just like your friend has been replaced with Agent Smith, who's there to tell you again, I told you in the last person. No, this is blah, 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 blah. It is fascinating.
It appears that Agent Smith is becoming more and more minuscule as time goes by. I have observed that the preponderance of reality is has well it's not beginning, it is shattering the
It is.
images which we are being told by our governing bodies, whether it be in the United States of America, whether it be in the German consulate, whether it be in France, whether it be in Austria, whether it be wherever. Portions of Canada, as we have some Canadian participants in the shows, and they are noticing that certain aspects of what they have been told by the governments are not panning out to be true. Truth, time is proving to be a very good solvent at removing the varnish of a lie that we've been told. And there are several of them that time is now showing us we've been misled on a great variety of things that they were calling facts, even over the past 5 years. And
Indeed. And I've noticed that these
and
people that have woken up, the overwhelming majority of them, at some data point, they realize that they're being lied to. And their mind went to, well, if they're lying to me here, what else are they lying about? And boom, they're on their path to becoming a free thinker.
And it's very unsettling, may I just say, when one has a realization that what they believed to be was a real way of living is actually constructed for them. It is very unsettling to wake up to that, I must say. It's scary. It's scary. It's angering. And it's like you realize at that point your foundations that you've been led to believe were absolutely solid. And this doesn't apply to everyone because some people are brought up in reality from birth. And typically those people have very hard lives. The ones who I find, like myself, my whole life hasn't been comfortable. However, there was a period of my life where I fell into a great sense of comfort, like a very deep comfort. And it was at that point in my life when I was the most separated from reality. Like I was living in a fantasy. It was a very real fantasy, but it was a fantasy nonetheless, not sustainable by any means. Required a great amount of other people's labor to perpetuate my comfort level. Waking up to the reality that I wouldn't always have those comforts was a bit alarming, but also freeing because it was at that point I was able to start constructing a more durable foundation, which would be harder to be removed because it was real.
Yeah, it actually took some work, and Scripture talks about that. Christ talks about building your castle in the sand, as opposed to building it on a solid foundation. Once the first wave comes, it's going to knock the other castle right down. It's just going to come tumbling down.
Could you tell the whole story on that one?
I'd have to look up the scripture.
Because that's a parable.
Yep.
It's a very good parable.
And while I'm looking this up, I want to remind everybody out there that while you're engaging in these people, the war is mostly for the observers, guys. I want you to remember that your target, whoever it is that you're engaging with, trying to red pill, 99 times out of 100, you're not going to have any observable effect on them. You might put a stone in their shoes. I want you guys to remember, especially as you are doing this on the internet, there are observers out there, and the observers are not invested emotionally in the conversation in the same way that your target is. They're just watching. They get a chance to sit back and just observe. So one of the reasons that this meme war and this information war works as well as it does is because we can reach so many people that we'll never, ever know we've reached. I call them lurkers. They're just people hanging out in the background. They're going, hey, this is interesting. And they watch me, or they watch Kevin, or they watch Red Dawn Radio. They watch somebody going after one of these people, and they start to observe and assess. And like I said before, comparison and contrast is the mother of clarity. So once they see that something's going on there, you're going to put a stone in their shoe as well. And it doesn't have to be in the moment. You could have this conversation, record it, post it. 5 years from now, someone sees it and they get that little stone in their shoe. So it has an exponential effect. Just as you guys go out and engage these people, try to bear that in mind. You know, don't sweat too much on, I have to get something done right this minute, right now. Rest knowing that it's gonna have the desired effect on whoever Christ decides should be affected. The onus isn't on us. The onus is on our King. Our King is going to be the one to wake them up. We are to make ourselves willing instruments in his hand. And it helps if you know a few things. It helps if you understand the basic principles of logic, critical thinking, abductive reasoning. The more you have of that, the more effective you're going to be. Because if people see you just taking these people to task, they're going to go, hey, that's interesting. This guy really didn't have anything except calling him a Blomfy supporter and a fascist. And yeah, when he called him a fascist, the guy was pointing out, hey, you're basically spoon feeding me everything the government says. Which one of us is the fascist? They're going to see this stuff, and it's going to have an effect on them. You ready for this?
Yes.
All right, let me come back up to 21. This is Matthew 7, and we're going to be starting at 21. I never knew you. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but the one who does my will of the Father who is in heaven. On that day, many will say to me, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name and cast out demons in your name and do many mighty works in your name? And then I will declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you workers of lawlessness. Everyone then who hears these words of mine and does them will be like a wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house, but it did not fall because it had been founded on the rock. For you Christians out there, our rock is Christ. And everyone who hears these words of mine and does not do them will be like a foolish man who built his house in the sand. And the rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell, and great was the fall of it. And when Jesus finished these sayings, the crowds were astonished at his teaching, for he was teaching them as one who had authority and not as the scribes. Pretty dank, huh?
It is, and I wonder, like, what kind of a wake-up call, like, if we were to go back and put this in context of the time when this word was put out, what kind of government, since tonight's show is called Who is the Government? Jesus Christ would have been quite the political rabble-rouser, quite the, I guess that's why they crucified him after all.
Yeah.
He wasn't exactly very
There's a
popular
meme to that effect. He disagreed with the government and they killed him for it. And when you look at it, the Pharisees were the spiritual and political leaders of that day.
Yes. Well, like, let's see. We've got about like 10 minutes left before the absolute, 9 minutes left now before the absolute end of the show. Who were the scribes in this context? I mean, do you know?
The scribes and Pharisees, it's a term that he uses. Scribes were the people who were making the copies of scripture. So these are people who had a really good knowledge of what scripture was. You have to remember back then, it wasn't like in America. In America, everybody could read. It was a big deal. Most of the people read Latin, Greek, French. They knew a bunch of different languages. In Christ's time, it wasn't that way. A lot of these people could not read. They heard the word, they heard the scripture, but the scribes were pretty much the keepers of the document. Now, this parallels with the Catholic Church, because what did we have 300 years after Christ died and beyond? We had the Catholic Church saying, no, we're the scribes. We have the word of God. No, you cannot translate it into English so people can see that we're lying to them about who Christ is, what he teaches, and what he commands. No. If you do that, John Huss, John Wycliffe, we will kill you for it.
That just seemed, the scribes must have been known to the Pharisees back then. I wonder.
He lobbed them together. It was almost synonymous. Some scribes were Pharisees, some Pharisees were scribes, and some were both.
Do we have accounts in Christian history and of scribes being killed for?
Yes. Good scribes.
I haven't. What's that?
Good scribes. Well, you have it on both sides. So the scribes that were killing the good scribes, you could consider them scribes. They were hiding the word behind the language. You had the common people who spoke anything other than Latin, Aramaic, Greek. So the cardinals, the bishops, whoever it was, could just tell them, this is what the book says. And they had no way to check against that. The scribes were the people who understand their letters. They knew the different languages. And you had some scribes that were on Team Vatican. These people, they're talking against the doctrine of transubstantiation and they need to die. Then you had people like Wycliffe, like Huss, like Martin Luther. You had all of these other scribes that are like, hey, I know what this says. I know you're lying to people, and I'm going to get it into English or another language so they can see that you're lying to them. True story.
Would cause conflict. That would cause conflict.
Oh, dude. Wycliffe. They hated Wycliffe so bad because he dared to challenge the doctrine of transubstantiation. He dared to challenge the wealth of the early Vatican Church. That people were starving. They didn't have food. And the church had probably a third of the land in all of England. And Wycliffe's argument was like, hey, instead of sending fat stipends to all these people you have around the world, maybe we could feed the fucking poor. They killed him for it. They basically accused him, oh, you're just jealous, you're not getting your share of it. And he's like, no, this is not of God. And when Wycliffe said, hey, we need to fix this, the shitbags were like, oh, well, whose authority should we put in place? The king? I'm sure the king would love to take all of our land. And he's like, no, the word of God. They killed him.
And now where are we today? We're at the point now where we're letting billionaires acquire large sections of farmland and decide how our diets are going. I mean, just one aspect of our lives, controlling our food.
Not just the billionaires, look at the cults. How much land does the Church of Mormon own? They're heretical at its core.
Know.
But they own a fuck ton of land. There was one point in time where the Mormons had the largest standing army in the world.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. What are we going to talk about on Thursday? We're going to look at like the history of standing armies through time from Jesus forward, maybe. That's interesting.
You, I'm down to ride the chaos.
Well, I'm down to ride the chaos too if I know where the hell I'm going. I mean, it's but yeah, I'd be interested in knowing some of the history of like how we got to this point from the death of Jesus forward. It would be, I mean, it would probably take more than a couple of episodes, but yeah, I'd be down for like doing some research and definitely dialoguing on how we even got to this point and where are we going in the future and such.
We could microcosm that with the meme on the screen. You see the meme on the screen?
No standing army?
It says in our documents we're not to have a standing army. Look at that shit. We could microcosm this. How did we get to the point where we are now in America?
Yeah, that's not the army of the people though. That's the army of the people in power.
Yes.
Those are oath breakers. Like, why can't we have that? Why can't we have oath breakers?
And I'll remind you, those are oath breakers. The deprivation of your rights or my rights under color of law is treason and sedition according to our founding documents. And do you know what the punishment for treason and sedition is?
Death.
Yeah, it's a long drop and a short stop.
Yeah, that's something that Bruce asked me. He's like, why do you guys always want to kill everyone? It's like, we don't want to kill everyone. We want to bring to justice the people who are harming the people.
Yes.
And
legally and lawfully after a fair trial.
Yeah.
All those cops standing there. If we could remove the information control system and the brainwashing, most of these people could be reasoned back to reality. Like, hey, you're a jackbooted thug. You understand that you are the modern brown shirt, right? And here, give us a chance to prove it to you. Prove it to them, and those people are going to be like, oh man, I was fucking hornswoggled. I don't want anything to do with it. Those people can be saved. It's the ones that are like, no, this is the way it is. Fuck you guys. Those are the ones that they might have to see the end of a rope.
Well, it might be kind of hard considering that we have a swath of people who are adamantly saying that all cops are bastards and all forms of public servants, when it deals in this capacity of peace officers and stuff, when they're being lambasted and bludgeoned on the daily. Oh man, these people, our police officers are being put through the freaking ringer from my point of view. I mean,
and there are some good ones out there. There are some constitutionalists. There are a lot of constitutional sheriffs, and they get a bad rap. But overall, especially in these liberal cities, it's nothing more than jackbooted thugs. They don't. Some of them don't know. They don't know that they're depriving people of their rights under color of law. They don't know what they're doing is considered treason and sedition. They just don't know any better. They're just doing their job.
And have we not heard that before in history?
Yes, we have.
Right now, I am dropping the link to a Red Dawn Radio's Rumble channel into Odyssey and Pilled, because we are about to wrap up And I don't know what we're going to talk about on Thursday, but we'll figure something out.
We'll figure it out.
Pastor Shadilay, thank you so much for being a part of this production. Thank you for all that you offer in this. I am very, very thankful to be having this dialogue with you.
It is my honor,
Let's
brother.
see.
Thanks for having me. I legit live for this stuff. And it excites me to see you so passionate about this and wanting to dig in. Just keep at it, brother.
Well, it's just, I've wasted so much of my life not. So it's about time I do. So
Yep.
yes, never too old to learn. So yes, everyone, the pond, Red Dawn Radio is waiting for you. So get out. And then everyone in Odyssey and Pilled, afuera, you know where you've got to
Afuera!
go. Yes. So with that, God bless, guys. God bless, Pastor, and God bless y'all. We'll see you on Thursday. And remember, Thursday is the night we release the Scratching again. Just saying. All right.
Thank you, guys.